Hi, I'm Sally Russell, and thank you for tuning in to this episode of HIC Talks. Welcome to Helsingborg. This is a podcast series in English designed to demystify the city of Helsingborg for all its international residents. In this episode, we're speaking to Anders Landsbo, who was the project manager of H+ for several years. We managed to catch Anders in the very last few days before he retired to find out all about the new construction and redevelopment work going on at Oceanhamnen, Gåsebäck and Drottninghög. Hi Anders, how are you?
Very well, thank you. I'm sitting here in my office and looking forward to talk with you.
Thank you for joining us. And we're very grateful to catch you because we know this is really your last few days working for the municipality. So it's quite a landmark moment, I think.
Yes, for me, it's a little bit tumbling because it's good sides and bad sides, of course. Well, it's a special day today.
Yeah, it is. Well, we're glad we've just managed to catch you.
Yeah.
So first of all, Anders, how long have you been working at Helsingborg Stad?
Actually, I've been working here for almost exactly 9 years now. So it's quite a long time. And the time went fast, I can say.
Yeah. And what kind of roles have you had within the municipality?
Well, I've always dealt mostly with project management. So in the big city development projects, so to say.
Okay, thank you. And have you always been in urban planning?
Yeah. That's also why I actually said yes to the work here, because I've been working with buildings, of course, and other things all my life as a project manager, but to build a city, or at least a part of a city, that was a new challenge. So that's what excited me.
Yeah, very exciting. Good. And are you from Helsingborg originally?
Well, you can say that, but I'm born in Malmö and all my family are actually from Landskrona. But I've lived here for more than 40 years. So yes, I'm from Helsingborg.
Yeah, definitely. I think 40 years definitely qualifies.
Yeah.
Great. So we're here to talk about H+ today. And how would you describe it as an overview for our listeners?
Well, it's a city development project, of course, and the main purpose is to create more than 5,000 new apartments centrally placed in the city. And it's an old harbor and industrial area that we recover, so to say. And we work with the development parallel with other processes, for example, the new infrastructure, and also since last year, actually, with the development of expansion of the city harbor. And the city harbor needs new areas a little bit further south. And that creates new possibilities for city development in the central parts of Helsingborg.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Good. And I remember from a talk that we had at a HIC event that there's a clear focus on sustainability and innovation at Oceanhamnen. So could you tell us about some of those initiatives?
The most exciting part is, of course, the new integrated sewage system. That's what we are building now in the first part of H+, in the Ocean Harbor. And that is mainly using old techniques, but putting them together in a new way. So we divide the sewage water in different flows, and we have the black water, we have the gray water, and we also have the milled domestic waste, the wet waste from the kitchen, for example, in a separate pipe. That way we can also regain resources out of those flows in a better and more effective way. So we can get nutrients out, we can get heat out, and so on. And we can also make biogas, and that's a good thing. So that's what we do, but that's a big thing. But to complement that, we also create what we call RecoLab. That's a recovery lab, actually. And this lab is built right now. We can take it in use in just a few months. And it's divided in 3 parts. One part is to deal with the flows from the apartments, of course. But another part is a test bed. A test bed where, for example, the university or companies can test their new techniques or new ideas on the sewage flow and try to create new processes. And then we also have a showroom where we hoping to show cutting edge techniques or technologies for the future, both for the people living in Ocean Harbour, but of course for all of the Helsingborg, and also for other peoples visiting Helsingborg. So that will be a sort of future center.
And I gather it's getting a lot of interest from not just within Sweden, but internationally as well.
Of course, the sewage part of the world is not the biggest one, and it's not interesting for everyone, but it's very special, and it needs to be renewed. And this is extra special to work in a field where everything has looked the same way for 80, 100 years. And we also have another thing that we now try out, and that's what we call the house of resources. When we deal with all this wet waste, we also have the other waste that normally gets picked up by a lorry once a week. And we try to create a circular thinking and to recreate materials and reuse and so on, and also combine it with mobility thoughts. So we try to apply all the sustainability thinking into this area as good as we can. So that's what we are creating now.
And you mentioned that it'll create biogas as well. So how will that be used? Does it sort of go back into the system here, or is there a specific use for it?
You can use it in many ways. Two of the ways here is, of course, that some of the buses in the town is still working on biogas. So there's a use. And we also have an old and even a new gas net in the streets, below the streets, so that we can distribute this gas back to the area. And restaurants, for example, or people who want gas in their flat, it's even possible to get that. And they, so to say, get their own gas back.
Okay, thank you. So they get the gas back. That sounds excellent. So it's been really interesting to see all the apartments going up, and I know that people have been living in them now for a little while down at Ocean Harbour. Is there a broad mix of apartments, and do you think they're going to be affordable for most people?
Yeah, in the first part, there will be mainly apartments that you have to purchase. And they, of course, will be a bit more expensive for some people. But in the coming stages, there will also be apartments for rent. When you develop areas in the middle of the town, so to say, the price of the land, of course, will be quite high. But hopefully, in some years, we also can build new apartments affordable for people with more average level of income.
Yeah, I can imagine it's going to be quite a high premium at the moment, especially with the views and the newness and all that kind of thing.
But you have to remember that we are actually building over 5,000 new apartments. So, of course, some of them will be cheaper than others. So it is.
True. Yeah, as long as it balances out, I guess it works, doesn't it? I know there's going to be a business area there, isn't there? Was it called the Helsingborg waterfront or something?
Yeah, there is several different names. I don't know which one that has actually found their place yet, but it's coming up. But of course, many businesses expect it, and many of them are already there, actually. We see everything from a new hotel developed. We have new shops and service activities, of course, new offices, of course, modern activity-based, and many of them actually engaging in startups and new types of business. So that will also create new life in this new part of the city. And we also see health central that will be in the first parts, and restaurants and cafes, of course. The area is very good for that. You have the view, you can see Denmark, and you can see the city center if you turn the other way around.
Exactly. It's so close, isn't it? And to have those incredible views over the strait are wonderful. We already really enjoy being around the new hotel area and a few of the little places close to that. So and I think what's exciting is that every time we go out at the moment and walk in those areas, you've got a different view, you've got a new perspective. So there's something happening all the time. It's really interesting to see. Yeah. So one thing that I was talking about with a friend recently is that the whole Ocean Harbour area has a lot of history. And we wondered whether local people are frightened about this sort of sense of losing touch with the past. What do you think about that?
Well, you can look at it in two ways. The first way is that actually people are not used to be able to be in those parts, because the years that have gone, the harbor was a closed area, so you couldn't actually get in there if you didn't work there. But we have worked together with, for example, the University of Lund, the campus in Helsingborg, and we have actually gathered lots of historical fragments and also documented it so that we have that together and we can use it in the planning process. So we use it when we, for example, give names to new streets, or when we create new areas, we can use those fragments to create them so that you can visualize the history in some ways. And we also keep some elements in the area. We have an old harbor crane, for example. We have a harbor dock and so on. So we keep some of the elements and refurbish them, so to say.
And I also saw there was a project, I think one of your colleagues was running, which was about collecting the stories and the memories from people in that area too. And I did click on some of those the other day, and it looked really interesting to see people's stories of working in those areas, or being a young child and going along with perhaps their parents to those harbour areas. It's good to collect all that, I think, isn't it? And it gives us a much deeper perspective, because as you say, actually, that kind of area is pretty much unknown to most people. So it's really good if they can still feel not so much a physical connection, but connect with those memories and those stories.
And maybe they have a father or a mother that worked in the harbour and so on, that they can connect to that feeling when they are
Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. That's the word, the emotional connection. That's the difference. Thank you. I've also discovered that modern architecture can be a very divisive subject. And personally, I think it's really exciting to see the juxtaposition of the old and the new in Helsingborg, but not everyone likes that. So what would you say to people who dislike the new buildings?
Well, I usually say that architecture, it has always made people engage and have opinions. And that's a good thing. That's a really good thing, because that's what we want people to do. But it's also important to make visible in the city that different parts are created with different conditions and also in different times, so that you actually can see when is a part of a town built. It's very important to feel the growing of a city. And of course, when we then work in the middle of city with mainly old buildings surrounding it, it's very strange to put in a modern glass building, of course. But when the time goes, and probably in a few years, some of the people that were negative will be positive, hopefully. But the architecture changes over time, and what's acceptable today is not acceptable in the future, or the opposite. So we have to see. But you must be prepared to meet the future, so to say.
Yeah, that's true. I think it's really interesting to see the new styles coming up, the different colours that we're getting. And also, actually, just before the new hotel opened, I was walking near the Tivoli one day, extremely bright day like we've got today. And I could see these incredible sort of rainbow reflections off of some of the bars on the balcony and things like that. So, you're suddenly getting all these different angles, these different looks, these different reflections of light. So, yeah, I think it's fascinating myself. So the new bridge is very exciting. That's the pedestrian and cycle bridge between the station and the whole Ocean Harbour area. And I saw that they've recently started putting in the last sections of that bridge. So that looks incredible. Do you know when that's likely to be ready?
Well, it's a very complicated bridge, of course, and that we knew, but maybe we underestimated the effort a little bit. But actually, the last part is now in place in the big construction, but there are quite a lot of things to complete the bridge. So I can't promise, but say in July, or at least during summer this year, the bridge will be finished and you will be able to walk it and to sit and look at the views and of course use it if you live out in the ocean harbor. And that would be a good thing. Then you have absolute access to the city center in a few minutes just. So that's very good. The bridge is also a piece of art, I think. It's very special. It's the only kind in the world that has that construction, actually. So it's very special.
Ah, okay. So what's so unique about it?
Well, it's unique. There are two pylons pointing sidewards. Between them, there are some wires or steel wires, and they are actually going under the bridge, lifting the bridge up between those pylons. And that is a construction that, as I know, is never used in another bridge in that way.
Okay.
That's special. So if you like bridges, you can go there and see a special bridge.
Excellent.
It will be painted in some colors, but also there will be some lighting on it so that it can change. So when you change the light, you can change the view of the bridge. So that will be exciting, I think.
Very good. Yeah, sounds great. Thank you. So staying in the centre of Helsingborg, because I know H+ covers more than just Ocean Harbour, it's been very interesting to see how art and creativity have been allowed to thrive in different places. I'm thinking right now of Gåsebäck, because there have been contributions from both local and international artists, although mentioning that, Pixelperium was also a good early example of encouraging art and creativity, wasn't it, within H+. So how would you say that the Gåsebäck area fits into H+?
Well, it's a special area within H+ because it contains of many small companies, and also several areas are privately owned. That's in the opposite of the northern part in Ocean Harbour, where the city actually owns all the area. But you can say that it's a very interesting way of planning the city that we deal with in Gåsebäck. We test actually how we can work with the inhabitants in a more direct way, and especially with the cultural part of the community, and how to create a new part of the city. So we hope to get new input and engage more people in the planning process, because that's often the problem, that you have an opinion when it's built, but you do not engage in the process, though you are able to do that. So we try to do that more in Gåsebäck. And it's exciting, but it's difficult, and it takes time. It takes a lot of time. But we already can feel that the increase in engagement is coming now in our work. So that's very good. It's a new way of doing it. And we really want to compare that with the usual way and see which is not the best, but can we learn from those two and do it even better in the future.
From what I've read, it seems to be there's a lot of emphasis on sort of grassroots involvement, if you like.
And the important thing when you work that way is if you say to people, we are going to listen to you. You can't just walk away then, because you have to deal with what you actually hear. And you have to respond on that, and you have to show that you actually want to try and meet them in their requests in some way.
Yeah.
You can't meet all, of course, because professionals know some things that non-professionals doesn't know. So you have to meet half the way. But I think we can get much more new things and knowledge into the process this way.
So for people that don't know, how would you describe where Gåsebäck is?
It actually is south of the city center. So if you go in the city center, when you pass Georgskyrkan and you go further south, you actually, when you go over the motorway, you come to the old fire station, and that's the area behind it. It contains of railway trails and, of course, lots of old industry. It's actually also in the middle of the town. It ends actually in Ramlösa station. Yeah. So the further city development will reach all the way down to Ramlösa, actually. Yes.
Thank you. Good. So changing area a little bit, I'm thinking about Drottninghög at the moment. You were actually the first person to give HIC office space which was way back in 2015. So thank you for that. And we were really grateful to have the opportunity for a base and somewhere for people to visit us. And so because the office was in Drottninghög, we found out quite a lot at the time about what was happening in the area. And I think you had some interesting models there and a lot of diagrams up on the wall and things like that. As I say, that was back in 2015. So what's happening now in Drottninghög, and what are you hoping to achieve there?
First, I can say one big part of that project is actually to give people opportunities. And that's a good example that you gave, because we have always been open to new ideas and new people and new methods and whatever. And that's a good example. But in Drottninghög, compared to H+, in Drottninghög, there actually lives about 3,000 people today. So, of course, it's another type of city development project. So you have to divide this project in two parts, actually. One that is actually the physical development of the area. We are actually doubling up the amount of apartments in the area and also the amount of people living there, of course. But we also deal with the social development. It's very important to deal with that. And after more than 10 years now in this project, we can see that people in the area, some of them, or in fact, quite many of them, are in a situation that they lack a job or they lack an education or something like that. But we have seen now that this is changing. People are finding jobs, people are educating, and people are able to actually fulfill their dreams that just were dreams some years ago. But today, many of the people living in Drottninghög actually can fulfill their dreams. And that's, we can't say that our project has solved that, but we have at least done our part in getting there. And that's really nice. But I can say like this, the overall aim of the project in Drottninghög, where the city goes into this project, is actually that a person living in Drottninghög shall be as happy or have as a good life quality as everyone else in Helsingborg. And that's a goal that we always have worked towards. And we see now that, yes, we are getting closer and closer. And that's good.
Mm-hmm. So are there any particular initiatives that stand out then that have happened in Drottninghög that you think have particularly made a big difference?
Well, the most important part is, of course, that all the apartments in the area are being refurbished. Or if we tear them down, we build new buildings and we put in new apartments, both that you can rent and both that you can buy, actually. So if you live in Drottninghög and want to stay in Drottninghög, you can today choose between different ways of living, actually. Because 10 years ago, all the flats looked the same. If you move within the area, you move to exactly the same apartment. So you actually didn't move. And we also have worked very much with the area between the houses. We have created new parks. We have created new areas for people to meet and to enjoy their lives. And now we are also putting in some offices and some other working places in the area, and that's good. And we are now developing the square. The old square is getting a new face. We're building around the square, putting in new areas for shops and so on. So there is a lot happening in the area.
Great. Thank you, Anders. Good. Well, thank you very much for being with us today. I wonder, how can people find out more about H+?
Well, if you want to do it today, the best way is to go into the website, of course, the h22.se. But the best you can do is, of course, to visit the city next summer, 5 weeks in June, and to visit our city expo, H22. And I can assure you that there will be lots of things to enjoy. And you can, of course, enjoy both H+ and Drottninghög. But there will be much more to enjoy in the city next summer. So welcome to Helsingborg then.
Fantastic. So that's H22, and I think that's starting in May, isn't it? Going on for 35 days, if I remember rightly.
Correct.
Good, good. So just a few final questions for you, Anders. do you have any favourite places to visit in Helsingborg or the surrounding areas? It would be great to have any tips from you.
Well, we talked about one this summer. Visit the new bridge. I think that will be special down in the ocean harbour. But also go up to Drottninghög and sit in May in the new cherry park that we created up there. There you can find 100 different cherry trees in blossom in May. So
Beautiful.
go there in Drottninghög.
Okay, right. Thank you. That sounds good. Thank you very much, Anders.
Thank you. It was really nice to be talking to you, and hopefully some of the listeners will get some new information. Hopefully.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, then. Thank you for today. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Thanks very much to Anders. We hope he enjoys a well-deserved retirement. Please join us next time when we'll be asking, how do you make friends with a Swede? And thanks to everyone for listening. We'd also like to thank the Vision Fund for their support in making the series possible. If you have any thoughts or questions from this episode, you can find us at www.hiconnections.eu. On social media, we're on Instagram at HIConnections, and on Facebook and LinkedIn, we're at Helsingborg International Connections. We'd love to hear what you think, so please get in touch.